Good afternoon. Today we're asking why profits go down when you take on a new salesperson. I'm here with Graham Potts, who's Chartered Accountant and Managing Director at our accountancy firm Wessex Commercial. With an eye for numbers and years of hands-on experience, Graham is great at spotting the changes you can make to increase profit in your business. So as we go through the session today, if you've got questions, pop them in the chat and we'll try and answer those as we go through. Graham, today I know you want to talk about the real cost of taking on a salesperson. There's more to it than just covering salary.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you, everybody. Yes, I want to discuss what a salesperson needs to bring in to ensure the bottom line does increase. But I also want to talk about other things you should consider when taking on a salesperson.
Okay.
That could apply to any new employee.
So what things should business owners be considering?
Well, firstly, time, which is something that business owners don't have, but you must make time. You need to make sure that you've got time to plan what you expect from the salesperson, including targets, time to interview that person, time to appoint and induct that person, time to train and monitor that salesperson with your systems and processes, and time to explain your business, what it wants, your strategy, your wants, your needs, what's expected of them.
Yeah. So you need to ensure you've got time to plan, interview, and take on that salesperson.
Yes, and that often is an issue for business owners.
And is there anything else people need to think about apart from time?
Yeah, I would say definitely good systems and processes. You need to have something that captures the information that enables you to keep track of your new salesperson. So ensuring that you've got the information. The information, remember, you're paying them and the information is yours, not theirs.
Just maybe explain a little bit more for us, please, Graham.
Yeah, certainly. When you take on a salesperson, you should have some system for monitoring all the information. And tracking it and capturing all the information. That is something like what they call a CRM system, a customer relationship management system. Now, how do you monitor? How do you incentivize? How do you agree targets with that salesperson? And really, what happens when that person is ill, on holiday, or even leaves after 6, 12, 18 months, whatever?
Yeah.
What information do you have to follow up on leads, quotes, orders, etc.? You have to ensure that that system process is robust enough that the information is with you, not the salesperson. They can have access to it, but it needs to be your information.
Yeah. So you'd advise that you review all of those systems relating to the sales process to ensure you're capturing everything and you can monitor the salesperson?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. So we've talked about time and systems. I'd like to move on to understand more about the numbers side of things, and particularly the true cost of taking on a salesperson. Can you explain some more?
Yeah, this is the interesting one, because when I talk to people, they don't really know, and my figure is a little bit different to their figures. Yeah. So first of all, you need to budget the total cost of the salesperson. Now, the total cost includes not only their salary, but also if you give any bonuses. But what about their on costs, their employment costs, other costs like national insurance, which has obviously just recently gone up? What about pension? What about any other benefits that you give them? Then are you providing a vehicle or mileage or traveling expenses? Yeah. What happens often with a salesperson? They have to stay away, so accommodation. Is there extra sales and marketing costs? Are they, entertaining? And are there any other costs with software, financing, admin, etc.? Often these costs on the gross salary, I increase it by 50 to 100%, and I have seen on occasions being more.
Wow.
And then next, understand what the average gross margin percentage expected on your products and services your new person will be selling.
Okay.
Then you need to work out your minimum sales target by dividing the cost of the salesperson by this expected gross margin percentage.
Okay.
And just as important are your targets that you end up with. Are they realistic? And where are your sales coming from? Is it realistic? Have you identified what markets you're going to be targeting? What areas?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So perhaps you could explain those numbers by giving us an example to run through.
Yes, certainly, Linda. In one case, we advised on salary was 40,000. The cost of national insurance, employment benefit, other benefits like pension, etc., life insurance, etc., was 7,000.
Mm-hmm.
But this was a traveling salesperson. So extra costs included a fully expensed car. That included fuel, the leasing costs, insurance, repairs, tires, etc. There was hotels and accommodation and entertaining. There was going to be marketing and exhibition costs and other incidental software admin financing costs. Now, these costs were estimated at the initial stage. As I said, 40 for the salary, 7 for the NI pension, etc.
Yeah.
But we had 15 for the car because they were traveling all through the UK. 10,000 for accommodation, meals, entertaining. 6,000 for sales and extra in exhibition costs, extra marketing. And with extra overhead, admin, finance, software, etc., we estimated about 2,000. The cost went from a gross salary of 40,000 to a total cost of 80,000.
That's a big increase, a big surprise, I imagine.
Well, it didn't surprise me, but it did surprise the client.
Yeah. So once they've worked that figure out, what do business owners need to do next?
Well, the business need to understand what sales are needed to, as a minimum, to cover that salesperson's cost of 80,000, as well as what would be the expected gross margin. Yeah.
And how would you calculate that?
Well, the gross margin is the sales less the direct cost, not your overheads, your direct costs. So, for example, if you're selling a widget and you're selling it at £1, but it costs you 50p, then your margin is 50p because it's 50p you're costing. It's been sold for £1 and you're making 50p. But the gross margin percentage is 50% because it's on the sales value. That's what we're looking. We're looking for what sales, not extra direct costs. We're looking at what sales we need. In the example with the business, the anticipated gross margin was 25%. So an example of that, just very simple, would be something like, sort of £100 sale, direct cost of £75. We were making £25 after the direct costs.
Yeah.
Now they needed to cover the 80,000 by this gross profit percentage to work out what extra sales they needed.
Yeah.
So the 80,000 divided by 25% or 0.25 gave £320 extra sales needed as a minimum to cover the costs. And that is before considering how long those sales take to come to fruition, because obviously they're not going to come overnight.
Yeah.
And, I would say, like, when you're looking at all this, I know that we're covering a lot here. If you want to know more about markup and margin and understand it, because they are different, then join us for the next session.
Brilliant. So having done those calculations with them, how did the business owner feel?
They were surprised. They felt they had, a salary of 40,000 in mind and target sales of 300, and they thought that was a good investment and they'd make extra profits until we showed them otherwise. Yeah.
So what happened next? What did the owner do?
Well, because they obviously, I'm sort of like quite good at numbers and understanding it. They asked me to meet the salesperson to discuss and see if we could work out what was the real cost. Could we reduce the costs? What about the margin, etc., and agree it with the salesperson.
And how did that go?
We had a very good meeting. We explained the costs. So we looked at where their targets were and everything. We explained to the salesperson the margins and what was expected. And what we did, we reduced where we were looking at. So we actually didn't cover it initially, the whole of the UK. And we actually got those revised, the cost down from 80,000 to 60,000. We didn't do an exhibition that we were going to do as well. So we cut down on exhibition, car and fuel costs and accommodation costs. Yeah. So we got down to 65,000 as a true cost, as a budgeted cost. We then looked at what sales we wanted, and the salesperson was quite happy he could hit at least 350,000. So that's the target we went for after 6 months. And also then we put a graduated bonus scheme in if they increased that. When I say graduated, if they increased over 350, we had a little bit of percentage as they went up.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry. And I was also explaining that the margin was key.
Yes.
So often with this, any like change in margin could, increase the sales value or decrease it. But in this instance, the business owner was undertaking all the pricing and felt the average of 25% was fine, and the salesperson couldn't offer discounts.
Right. Okay. And how did that go? How did that person work out?
First salesperson lasted 6 months, but there was a lack of sales, and good monitoring meant they came to an agreement and they left. But the client actually used the same method, went through an interview again, learned a lot. And I'm pleased to say that they worked out very well, and sales now have increased by over 500,000.
Excellent. So good result. And as you say, the monitoring was really important with that first salesperson that they had. Yes. If business owners are thinking about taking someone on to help them increase sales in the business, what should they do now?
Well, firstly, as I said, you must ensure that you have enough time to plan, recruit, interview, induct, monitor the salesperson. I cannot stress how important that is, especially in today's current environment where most business owners are flat out dealing with staffing issues, supply chain delays, inflationary pressures, uncertainty about the future. It is vital. Once you've given enough time, secondly, you must ensure your systems and processes are good and robust enough to capture the information collected by the salesperson so that you can monitor, and that actually you can be in control if something unexpected happens. Because if they're not there and you can't get hold of them, and you get phone calls, emails, and you don't know what's going on, the time it will take will be far exceed the time you've actually put into the effort. I've seen it before where people run around like headless chickens because they don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So always think of the unexpected could happen, that something could happen to the salesperson, to make sure you capture it, and that's your information. It's secure.
Yes.
Because we all hear rumors of salespeople moving around, and when they do, they take the information. Some do, some don't. I've seen it in both cases. But anyway, it is your information.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's making sure you can follow up on those leads, inquiries, quotations, orders, etc.
Yeah.
Thirdly, you need to ensure you work out the true cost of the salesperson, and then set out sensible targets based on those expected costs and divided by your gross margin percentage. So the business is going to increase its bottom line. We've all heard, turnover, vanity, profit, sanity, cash is reality. Businesses don't go bust if they've got cash. If they're making profit, if that's what they need. It's a bottom line that counts. It's not the turnover. The number of times I have seen problems where targets are set too low or poorly conceived, and a salesperson is often leaves, and no one knows what to do, is worrying. And I'd say in such a changing world, and in certain and lonely world for business owners, business owners do need to ensure they have set up time to monitor their staff. It's not just salesperson, and have good management information systems and support, so they get the information. The information's there, and they got the right information to make the right decisions, so they can grow their business profitably. I can't say it now. Tongue-tied. Profitably.
Yeah. I imagine similar calculations apply if people are taking on other staff to help free themselves up to do more sales and business development work.
It does, Linda. I was going to say, that's what I was saying. So say, for instance, you want to take an admin staff on, you cost that because you're going to increase sales. Then you can use the same calculation to work out what sales you've got to bring on. And that's a very, very good point, because often the business owner is the best technical salesperson, because they not only know the business, they're passionate about their business. So they should, not only be on the business, but if they're doing it, they should be selling the business as well. But as you grow, then you need support and etc. But yes, you can use the same calculation.
Yeah. So if those issues resonate with you and you want to have a chat with Graham on a one-to-one basis, perhaps run some numbers by him, I'm popping the email address on the screen, chat with Graham at wessexcommercial.com, pop an email over and we can get that one-to-one set up for you. We're taking a little break over August, but our next topic is going to be, is there a difference between markup and margin? We'll bring the answer to that question to you on Monday, the 12th of September at lunchtime again, 12:30 p.m. So we will look forward to seeing you there.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for joining us. Thanks.